Well, let's check.
Welcome back, right? Yeah, let's do an intro like that just to make sure. What's up, guys? Check out our merch in the description below.
What's up, guys? Check out our merch. Hit like, share, and follow. Okay, so whoever watches that video is going to be like, what has happened?
Don't worry, no one's going to watch it.
That is... What's sad is you're probably right. Okay, so we're talking about area and perimeter of triangles and parallelograms. That's what we're doing, okay? Now, perimeter, and it doesn't matter what shape we're talking about, perimeter is always what?
All the sides added together.
All the sides added together. Now, what's going to be tricky today is that they're not going to give us all the sides. I know, got your attention then, didn't I? That's why this is going to take us a little longer than what I expected it to, because they don't give us all the sides, and we have to use some prior knowledge to find some side lengths, all right? Now, area, we've talked about area of a triangle before. Do you remember? Is that how you spell area?
Isn't it like half times base height?
Yeah, so 1/2 times the base times the height, or you could say base times height divided by 2. And I like this one because it's just easier for me to remember, to be perfectly honest. Okay, so that's area of a triangle. Now, what about area of a parallelogram? I think I totally butchered that. Don't even say it. I don't care. Okay, anybody know? Mm-hmm. You guys have 2 sets of parallel sides. Yeah, so a parallelogram is just base times height, or length times width, if you want to look at it that way, right? That's how you find the area of a parallelogram. We always want to make it real complicated, but it's not. But sometimes you have to find like the height. You're not given the height, then you have to find it. And that's what we're going to be looking at today, is based on what they gave us, we may have to find some stuff, okay? So like if you look at number 1 here, if we're going to do the area of this triangle, area being base times height divided by 2, right? So base in this case would be 18, height would be 12, and then we're just going to do 18 times 12 and divide that by 2. So the area for this triangle is pretty easy. Somebody want to do that math for us? Can y'all see that pen well enough? It's pretty light. Is it bothering anybody that's so light? $108. And what is our unit of measurement for this? Millimeters. Because we did, I'm sorry, you are not quite right. It's millimeters squared, because we did millimeters times millimeters. So when you multiply millimeters times millimeters, you get millimeters squared, right? Now, let's talk about the perimeter of this sweet baby. So perimeter is all sides added together. But we have an issue. Does anybody know what our issue is? Yeah, we don't know all the sides. So we're going to have to do a little figuring before we can add all the sides up. We've got to find the sides. Now, if we cover this part up for just a second, and you just have that little piece right there, tell me what you see. What is that? You see a right triangle. There's a hypotenuse. We don't know the hypotenuse. But notice that the hypotenuse of that little triangle is one of the sides of our big triangle. And remember, if you have a right triangle, what can you use to find a missing side? So we're going to be using Pythagorean Theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. And that's going to find this. This is our c, right? So we're going to do 10 squared plus 12 squared equals c squared. So that's going to be 100 plus 144, 244, and then what's our next step going to be? Square root it. Now, because in the directions this says round to the nearest tenth, we can just plug square root of 244 in our calculator, get an approximate answer, and round that, right? So we put in square root of 244, what do we get? 15.6. So that's an approximate answer. It's not an exact answer. However, I want to take this moment to remind you of something. Let's say that they had said that they needed an exact answer. And we need to simplify this radical. So if they need an exact answer and we have to simplify this, remember, all we have to do is break it down to its prime factorization and see what kind of pairs we got in there. So what goes into 244? 2 and 122, right? What goes into 122? 2 and 61. So this is prime. This is prime. I'm going to save you all a lot of time. This is prime too. So that means that the square root of 244 is equal to the square root of 2 times 2 times 61. And remember, all square root means is what number is being multiplied times itself. Well, here is a number being multiplied times itself. So we can take the square root of 2 times 2 and we get the number 2. We cannot take the square root of 61, so it stays under the radical. And that would be the simplified version of that. If they asked for an exact answer, you'd have to use that guy. Okay? But they didn't. So we're going to use 15.6. So we're going to put 15.6 up here on our diagram. Okay, we're nearly there, but we're not there yet. What do we still have to find? So we got to find this side of that triangle. But notice it's the hypotenuse of this big triangle. If you put these two triangles together, you get a big one, right? So what can we use to find that hypotenuse? So we're going to do 28 squared. Where did 28 come from? Did we just pull that out of there? 18 plus 10 to get this side right here, right? So 28 squared equals, 28 squared plus what? 12 squared equals c squared. Now, I don't want to have to deal with this math. So y'all just do 28 squared plus 12 squared and tell me what it is. 1. I feel like this is not right, Jordan. Because 12 squared is just 144. What? 928 sounds closer. 928. What'd you do the first time, Jordan? Okay, so if you take the square root of both sides, did you maybe multiply instead of add those in the middle? Yeah, I think that's probably what happened. Okay, so square root of both sides gives you what? 30.5. So our hypotenuse of this big triangle is 30.5, which means this side of this triangle here is 30.5. Now that we know all three sides, we can just add them together to get our perimeter. So we'll do 30.5 plus 15.6 plus 18, and that gets us the perimeter for our shape. 45, 55, 63, 64.1. Is that right? I'm trying to keep my old mind sharp. Try not to get old. I thought I'd play Wordle every day, but I forget to play it. I enjoy it when I'm playing it, but then I don't think about it again for days. Days. Okay. And do any of y'all play Wordle? Does anybody feel like it's not hard and people make it to be a lot harder than what it is? It's not hard. I don't know why people act like it's so hard. Like, I've never missed a word. Like, never. Like, why do people act like it's such a difficult game? I don't get it. Maybe they're not mathematically minded and they don't realize that just by using different letters each round, you eliminate letters so you'll know it's not in the word. Like, maybe they just don't, like, I'm just looking for patterns. That's all I'm looking for. You know, oh, look, I used E and A and it wasn't there. It's going to have an I, an O, or a U. Let's find some words that have those in them and see which one. I mean, it's just patterns. Okay, look at this guy. That's a parallelogram. Now, on this one, on a parallelogram, you know your opposite sides are congruent. So if this is 5.5, what's this down here? 5.5. If this is 4, what's this over here? 4. So our perimeter on this one's going to be easy because we're just going to do 2 times 5.5 plus 2 times 4, and that gets us the perimeter of that shape, right? Is that 19? So 19 feet, right? That's our measurement. We didn't multiply any units. We just added them, so it's still feet. Now, to find the area, we have to do the base times the height. The base on this guy is 5.5. The height is not 4. That's what everybody wants to say. But the height is from the bottom to the top, straight up and down, right here, right? And we don't know that unit of measurement. But look what we have. We've got this guy. Tell me what you know about that. It's a 30, 60, 90, right? And we learned a few weeks ago on a 30, 60, 90, your short side is like your x, right? And your long side is your 2x. It's 2 times the x. And then this side right here is whatever x is times the square root of 3. Y'all remember learning that? I told you they'd come in handy, right? That you don't have to use it, but it comes in handy. So if we know that our long side is 4, then that means we can find our short side. So what would our short side be? 2. And if we know our short side, then we can find our medium side. It's 2 times the square root of 3. So that means that the height of our triangle is 2 times the square root of 3. And that's what gets plugged into our area formula. So we would just plug in our calculator, 5.5 times 2 square roots of 3, hit enter, and that's your answer. What is that? Anybody find it? What, Jordan? 19.1. And because it's area, we know it's going to be our unit squared, because area is always squared. Okay? How y'all feeling with this so far? Feeling good? What, Chris? So sometimes when we go through things step by step, it seems like a lot more than what it really is. If you were doing this yourself and just thinking it through in your head and somebody wasn't step by step explaining it, it would go much faster, right? Okay, so like if we look at 3. On number 3, what shape do we have here? Parallelogram. So that means that we know if that side is 7, what's this side? If that side's 14, what's this side? Right? So our perimeter on this one's going to be easy because perimeter is just all the sides added up. And we have 2 sides that are the same, or 2 sets of sides that are the same. So we can do 2 times 7 plus 2 times 14. What's that give us? What? 48? 42. I think this pen might write better if it's not on this hard surface. So 42 yards, right? That's our unit of measurement, yards. Now, to find the area is base times height. So the area in this case, what's our base? 14, right? Our base is 14. We don't know the height. But do you see what shape they gave us right there? They gave us a right triangle, and they told us this was 45 degrees, and we know that side is 7, right? Well, on a 45, 45, 90 triangle, which is what this is, a 45, 45, 90 triangle, we know that this side and this side are always the same, right? And then we know that this side over here is always whatever those sides are times the square root of 2. Right? So if we want to find out what this is, that's what we want to find out. We want the height of that triangle. Then we just need to solve this little equation that we have where 7 equals x times the square root of 2. Now, what is x and square root of 2 doing to each other? What math is happening? So how do you unmultiply stuff? So we're going to divide by the square root of 2. Now, in this problem, because they said round to the nearest tenth, we can just plug in 7 divided by square roots of 2 and round that. What is it? 4.9? But I want to point out something and take this opportunity to remind you about something. If they had told us that they wanted an exact answer, we can't plug it in the calculator and round it. But we can't leave it like this, because that square root of 2 cannot be on the bottom. How do we get that square root of 2 out of that bottom? By what? Yes. But if I do it on bottom, got to do it on top. So that means on bottom, what do I wind up with? 2, right? Just 2. Because the square root of 2 times square root of 2 is the square root of 4, but when we take the square root of 4, we get 2. Basically, you're just undoing that square root. But then on top, we get the 7 square roots of 2. Now, if they had asked for an exact answer, we'd have to use that. Okay? But they didn't, so we don't. But they gave us 4.9. So we've got 14 times 4.9. And what does that give us? What is it? 68.6? Does everybody agree? And what's our unit of measurement on that? Yard squared. Remember, anytime you're dealing with area, you've got squared. Okay, so look at number 4 with me. Okay, so on number 4, parallelogram again. They gave us 22 over here, so this is also 22. 26 up here, so this is also 26, right? So, what does that mean? Perimeter is going to be easy to find. We're going to do 22 times 2 plus 26 times 2. 96. So, Jordan said it's 96, and our unit is inches, right? On area, we need base times height. But once again, we don't have the height, right? But once again, what did they give us? A 45, 45, 90, which we know this side and this side are congruent, and this side over here is whatever they are times the square root of 2. So how are we going to solve that? Divide by the square root of 2. So what is 22 divided by the square root of 2? 15.6. So our area is going to be 26 times 15.6. 105.6? 405.6. You would think after teaching this 5 times a day I'd remember some of these, but I don't. I mean, sometimes I remember them, but most of the time I don't. Okay, what do you see on number 5? Always find it funny when they save the easiest ones for the last ones. How do you know it's a square? All the sides are congruent, 4 90-degree angles. That makes it a square. Now, if I'm doing the perimeter of a square, what do I know about all 4 sides? They're the same. So instead of doing 3.4 plus itself, we can just do 4 times 3.4. 13.6 meters, right? Now my area of this square. Area of a square is the same thing as the area of a rectangle, is the same thing as the area of a parallelogram. It's base times height, right? What's the base and the height of this? 3.4 and 3.4, right? So we can write 3.4 times 3.4, or our other option is we can do 3.4 squared because a number times itself is just that number squared. That's all that means, right? What do you get when you do that? 11.6 meters squared, right? Okay, number 6. One more time. Yeah, so we know all the sides. Perimeter is going to be 18.5 times 2 plus 2 times 9. I don't know why I've also went to writing that first one backwards. I'm just crazy, I guess. Whatever that is, right? So get an answer? Huh? 55? 55? This thing blowing over here makes it harder for me to hear you. I'm not crazy today. It's just this has not shut off. Huh? It doesn't. It doesn't feel good, and I wish I could make it stop, but I can't. Nah. It feels wonderful outside. It feels frozen in here. It's like I'm living in Elsa's world, and I don't like it. What? Okay, area. All right. I don't feel like we actually have to do that. Do y'all? I mean, I think y'all got that, right? Okay, so look at 7. Now, 7 is a trick question. It's a parallelogram. We need to find out what this dotted line is, and we can do that real easy because it's a 30, 60, 90 triangle, right? So if we, let me sketch out this 30, 60, 90 real quick. That is 60. We know this. We know this is 30, right? So we know this is our short side, and it's going to be half of our long side, so that makes it 15, right? And we know this long side is 15 square roots of 3. On a 30, 60, 90, it's 3. Think of base 3. 30, 60, 90 are all base 3, so it's a 3. Okay, if you think of on the 45, 45, 90, think of you got 2 sides the same, so square root of 2 is what you use. Okay. So that little thing right there is 15 square roots of 3. Whatever that is, I'm not going to worry about it right now. Okay? It's 15 square roots of 3. Now, here's where people mess up. The area is base times height. What's the base? The base is 20. Everybody wants to say 30. But if we're doing the base is 30, then we need this height. And we do not have that height. We have this height. So that means that if we have to turn it to look at it this way, see, we have this height right here. That means if we're using this height, this is what we're talking about is our base. So it would be 20 times 5 or 15 square roots of 3. 519.6. Okay. And then, of course, perimeter. I'm not going to bother doing perimeter. You add up all the sides, right? We know all the sides. We don't have to find anything. There's no point in doing that over and over and over and over and over, right? Look at number 8 with me. Do you see what I see? Do y'all see that 45, 45, 90 triangle there? So that's a right angle. These two are the same. That means these two angles are the same, which means it must be a 45, 45, 90. If it's a 45, 45, 90, then to find this side over here, all we have to do is 17 square roots of 2. Now, if we're looking for the area of this, what would we do? 17 times 17, or also known as 17 squared. What is that? 289 inches squared. And then if we're looking for perimeter, we would do 17 square roots of 2 plus 2 times 17, because we've got 2 of them, right? Or we could just do plus 17 plus 17, whatever floats your boat. Right? Y'all are doing so good. I'm so proud of y'all. Okay, I want to go over one more question with you, and then I'm going to give you a few problems to work on, all right? So I want to look at number 9 with you. By the way, first period and second period got number 9 as an assignment. I'm not giving it to y'all as an assignment. Huh? Yeah, they're not going to get it right. Like, I know they're not going to get it right. I want to see if they tried it, but I didn't realize that it had a component in it until after I gave it to second period. And it was the very end of class. So, let me show you. So, it says the height of a parallelogram is 10 feet more than its base. So, I'm going to sketch out. Always, always, always sketch it out. So, we've got a parallelogram, right? And it says the height is 10 feet more than the base. So if we call this base, can I write it up here? Is that going to bother anybody if I call it base up there like that? I don't have enough room down here. If we call that base, then the height is the base plus 10. 10 more than the height. Y'all see what I'm saying? Does that make sense? And it says the area is 120 square feet. So we know that the area is 120, right? And we know that we find the area by doing the base times the height. And in this case, the base times the height is the base times the base plus 10. Are y'all with me? So we have 120 equals base times base plus 10. Now, a few of them had got this far. But what they messed up on is when they multiplied. When you multiply this, you're multiplying base times base and base times 10. So that's going to give you base squared plus 10b equals 120. I don't know what just happened. I don't know what just happened. I don't know I don't know what just happened. What?
So the teacher just knows what's going on.
Well, I don't know how this random line, like how my brain and hand just wrote some random line in the middle of our number. It just showed up. Okay, now y'all know how to solve this, but I bet you don't remember how to solve it. And we're not going to get real deep into it. I'm going to show you how to solve it, but I'm not going to expect you to be able to do this. We're going to review this, but it's not going to happen today, okay? Today is just a very quick overview. So the first thing we're going to do is subtract that 120 and get it over here. So that's going to give us b squared plus 10b minus 120 equals 0. So what we're going to have, all right? And then our next step is we're going to factor that. Now, factoring means we find what two binomials multiply to get that polynomial. So, do y'all remember that whole reverse FOIL method?
A little bit.
A little bit, just barely there. Okay, so we multiply this times this, and it gives us b squared. That means that I know it's going to be a b here and a b here. And then whatever I have here and whatever I have here multiplies to get me negative 120. So I need to think of things that would multiply to get negative 120, but there's a caveat. They got to add up to 10. So I got to think of things that multiply to get 20, but might add or subtract is what I always say. Add or subtract to get 10. So what are things that multiply to get 120? Six and what? 60 and 2. But 60 and 2 are not going to give us 10, are they? If we add them or subtract them. Okay, so keep thinking. We'll come back to that in a minute, okay? Anybody? Has to add or subtract to get 10. If I didn't make an error somewhere. I could have an error somewhere. So 10 and 12 is too close. 8 don't go into it evenly. 6 and what? 6 and 20? That'd be 14. We're just going to get further and further away. Okay, so valuable lesson learned here, Miss Martin. And do the problem before you do it in class. You can't factor this. It's not factorable. So we have to do a different method. So another method that we could use is my brain just took a mini vacation. Hang on. Quadratic formula. I couldn't think of the word quadratic. Do you remember quadratic formula? Oh, it's time to refresh your brain.
It was online by my 3 years, so I don't remember.
So, quadratic formula is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. Now that sounds so complicated, doesn't it? The a, the b, and the c are like, a is your coefficient of b squared, that's your a, which would be 1, right? B is your coefficient of b. C is your constant number down here. Now, we're going to review this, not today, we're going to review this, and you're going to have it in your head to where you can remember it. Because when I do it, when I was writing this and saying it out normally, in my head I was singing a little song that helps me remember it. And there's lots of them. You get to pick whatever you like, whatever floats your boat. But that's how you would do it. Now, let's go talk to Hudson. Hudson, what did you do, sir?
There are 4 sides.
Uh-huh.
And 2 of them would basically just be x plus n. And then
Uh-huh.
and one of them would just be x.
Uh-huh.
When they add all together, so that would be 4x plus 20 is 120.
But 120 is your area, not your perimeter. That totally would work if you were looking at perimeter, but it's area. See what I'm saying? Now, if y'all want me to, I'll solve this. Do y'all want me to? Do y'all want to see the answer? Okay. So, what was our B? I'm going to have to do it down here. So, my B is 10. So, I've got negative 10 plus or minus the square root of negative, or 10 squared minus 4 times 1 times, is that negative 120? Yes. Negative 120. 2 times 1. Okay, so here's how we plug it in. And then this 10 squared is going to be 100. This is going to be positive 480. Is that right? So that gives me negative 10 plus or minus the square root of 580. And then 2 on the bottom. Somebody do square root of 580 for me, pretty please. What is it? Okay, so see how this says plus and minus? That means we have 2 different problems here. One of them is add it, one of them is subtract it. So that means we would have negative 10 plus 24.1 divided by 2. And negative 10 minus 24.1 divided by 2. The problem is we can't have a negative answer. And that would give us a negative answer. But we're talking about how long something is. Things that are length cannot be negative. So we go with this one. That gives me 14.1 divided by 2. Now 14.1 divided by 2 is going to be 7.05. Right? 7.05. So that means that my base is 7.05 and my height is going to be 17.05. Now on a calculator, you got a calculator on you? Now these are rounded values, so this may not be exact. But somebody plug in 17.05 times 7.05. Tell me what you get. Close enough to call it? Yeah, because we had to round right here we had to round, and so that's going to throw it off just a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to give you a few problems to do. I want you to do 1 through 6, yeah. Let's do 1 through 6. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. For today, there is no interactive worksheet and there will not be. I want to see your work and I will look at your worksheet tomorrow, and if you did it, you get credit. If you didn't do it, It's all about different. It's all about the different. I want to see that you tried it. Yes, sir. Which I know you only have 3 minutes right now, but it's only 6 problems too.
Yeah, no, it's working that way. What was that?
Oh no, crap! Thank you, you're ready.
Sorry about that, guys.
Hey, so I am so sorry. You've been watching this and nothing's been happening. But don't forget to like, share, and follow for more great math content.